All right, we are live. I'm going to be waiting for a few minutes for people to join. I'm going to send out some shares real quick. Good morning. If you're joining us today, we are doing our non-believers Bible study. I used to call it atheist Bible study, but actually we have lots of pagans and Norse pagans and stuff that join us. So witches and other people. We are on Genesis chapter 4 this week. So if you're just joining us for the first time, Genesis chapter 4. If you want to go back and watch the Genesis 1, 2, and 3, those are on my YouTube channel. The link is in my bio. And if you're on YouTube, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Let me send out a few more shares and then we will hopefully get started here. Good morning, Dana. How are you? I am trying to see if I can't share this out. Adi, I'm not going to have you join me because I don't know you personally, and so I don't have people join that I don't know personally. Why can't I send this out to Nick and Hippie? Give me just 1 second, you guys. I need to send this out to Nick. All right. You can come on up, Dana, if you wanted to, or Melanie. If I know you, I don't mind you joining the panel. I just don't want people jumping up here that I don't know. You know how it is. I don't want people coming up just to cause issues. I'm sorry that I haven't been here. I have been so sick. But I'm finally feeling better. I got a Z-Pack, and yeah, that helped a lot. How are you guys all doing? Well, I really wanted to wait for Nick or Hippie or Biblical Scholar or Deconstruction, not just in Deconstruction, the other Deconstruction, but they might be busy right now. So I might need to just get started. Thank you so much for the subscription. I really appreciate that, Melanie. And thank you for the gifts. You guys are awesome. If you guys can just hit those likes, though, I have 0 likes so far. I would really appreciate that. Just tap, tap, tap on those likes for a minute, and we will go ahead and start reading Genesis chapter 4. And I'll give you what I got. I was hoping to have some biblical scholars, but this is not my normal day, so that might be why they haven't joined me this morning, is that I'm not on my normal day. So usually Wednesdays, we get a pretty good crowd in here. All right, today is Genesis chapter 4, and in case you don't know, that is the chapter where Cain murders Abel. Schmurders Abel. Thank you for the likes. I appreciate it. We just want to get pushed down to that algorithm a little. All right. So let's start with chapter 4, verse 1 and 2. I am reading for the New Revised Standard Version, just in case you want to know which version I'm reading from. Okay. Now the man knew his wife Eve, and she conceived and bore Cain, saying, I have produced a man with the help of the Lord. Next, she bore his brother Abel. Now Abel was a keeper of sheep, and Cain a tiller of the ground. So in this version, it says, I have produced a man with the help of the Lord. But in other versions, I feel like it says something more like, I have found a man. And I didn't know if it was referring to Adam at first, like that's why she named Cain, like she was happy she found a man. But in this version, it makes it more clear that she's talking about Cain. So my notes on that were kind of dumb, so I'm not going to continue reading my notes on that part. But it goes on to say, now Abel was a keeper of the sheep, and Cain a tiller of the ground. So what struck me here was, were they born with those careers already? Like, were they assigned to them at birth? Did mom and dad decide those? I was really taken aback that, like, right away, right when they're introduced, they have careers. Does anybody want to come up and join me in the box? I'm so used to having somebody to talk to. If you would like to come up, and you're friendly, please just send me a request. I'd love to have you come up and talk with me. It makes it feel so much better when I have a friendly up here to talk to. In the course of time, Cain brought to the Lord an offering of the fruit of the ground, and Abel, for his part, brought of the firstlings of his flock, their fat portions, and the Lord had regard for Abel and his offering, but for Cain and his offering he had no regard. So Cain was very angry, and his countenance fell. I don't know about you, but growing up in church, I really hated this story. I hated that God loved one person's offering and not the other person's offering. I hated that these appeared to be designated careers for them since the time they were born. So they didn't get, like, there's no place in here. Oh, I do have a guest request. Let me pull you up. Thank you for joining me. I'm talking to myself.
Hello.
How are you?
Oh, I'm good. I'm so happy. Melanie sent me a link to you.
Oh, good.
I'm so happy. This is great.
Yeah, I really enjoyed going through the Bible, and it's really helping me to deconstruct the whole thing. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Oh, I'm with you.
I started my deconstruction, I don't know, about 7 years ago or whatever, but I never really deconstructed the things I was taught.
Right.
And now and as I would listen to people like debate online and stuff, I would hear them and they would have so much knowledge about the Bible, but the knowledge I had was always based on my Christian upbringing.
Exactly.
And I wanted to just really deconstruct that from the beginning, from chapter 1 all the way through. So that's kind of what we're doing. I usually am on Wednesday mornings. I just was sick this week, so we had to postpone until today. So thank you for coming up and so I have somebody to bounce this stuff off of. You know what I mean?
You're welcome. I studied the Bible in a Catholic high school. And it blew my mind how screwed up it is, against women and slavery and all that I actually became agnostic when I was in Catholic school.
Oh, that's
and
good.
I kept thinking, like, they take pieces of it now, like, and they distort it. It's all so hypocritical and ridiculous. They make it like, well, this is what they meant. They always do that. And I'm always like, well, how the hell do you know that? It's
Right?
bull.
And if we had done that as Christians, by the way, if we had just decided something meant something else, they would say, no, you got to take it in context and you have to
Absolutely.
go back to the Hebrew and stuff. So that's what we're doing. And I'm sorry, it aligns more with what I believe now than what I ever believed back then.
Absolutely. I'm with you.
So, um, okay, so where were we? Let's see. So, let's see, I think I was back where they gave their offerings, and Cain, obviously feels bad because God doesn't care about his offering. And what I never understood was these seem to be the very careers they were given since birth. So why would you be mad about what he offered when that was clearly what you assigned him at birth?
Right. That is weird.
It really hurt my feelings as a kid because I thought, I was an artist. So what if I drew you a picture, God, you weren't going to like my offering? Like,
Right.
that's how I felt as a little kid. I was like, that's sad.
Mm-hmm.
What am I supposed to do? I'm not a, a person who knows how to slaughter animals or anything.
Right.
So what am I supposed to do?
Right.
Now, an anachronism in this portion is that agriculture and animal husbandry were developed at the same time, but agriculture predates animal husbandry, actually. So they were, and like I said before, I found it very strange that they were born with careers. Who assigned them? Were they assigned those careers, the careers themselves? Were the parents assigning them? I never got a clear answer to that. I don't even
Right.
think it ever got justified to me.
Oh, it's so weird.
Yeah,
Yeah, it really is. It's it's so screwy.
right? It
I
just
was
seems,
since 1981. I was officially, or 84. I'm sorry, 84. I became an atheist. I was agnostic for a short time, and then just absolutely became atheist because I just thought, in my belief, no deity would make such a cruel world. With even the animals, like when you look at nature, and people will say it's beautiful, but it's actually very violent.
it
Their
is.
animals have to kill other animals. They eat them alive. I mean, it is absolutely gross. And I'm like, how can you say this is beautiful? If this would, a good deity would not have animals having to kill other animals,
Exactly.
or we having, we now have these corporate farms, factory farms.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. Hell,
Yeah.
like, I mean, and even with reincarnation, I always say, what guarantee do you have you're going to come back human? You may
Right?
come
I
back a pig being slaughtered or something, you know?
exactly. Or I always thought with people who believe in reincarnation, they would say in my past life, and I would think, how do you know that it's not your first life? Doesn't
Right.
everybody have a
There
first
was
life
a
too?
queen or a king in their past lives, and I'd be like, I was a rabid dog in my past
Right.
life.
If you're
It's
in
so
chat and
crazy.
you're just joining us,
Mhm.
just so you know, this is not a debate forum. You're free to talk about things in the chat, but we're not going to debate it. I'm
Mhm.
reading the Bible. I'm reading what it says literally, and we're talking about literally what it says.
That's
So
right.
if that doesn't fit your narrative, you can scroll on by. That's cool. But this is not a debate forum. Okay. Thank you. So so let's see. We're on 3:5. Alrighty. But for Cain and his offering, he had no regard. So Cain was very angry, and his countenance fell. The Lord said to Cain, "Why are you angry? Why has your countenance fallen?" I find it weird that God has to ask so many questions for an all knowing God. He always asks like, "Where are you? Why are you sad? What's going on?" And I always found that weird.
God knows all.
Yeah, it's strange to me. It also is strange to me, and it shows right here in this setting that God already picks favorites. He does not love everybody equally.
That's
He
right.
never has. So people who say God loves everybody, he loves everybody the same,
Hmm.
back here, back in Genesis, he
Hmm.
clearly shows he does not. He
He's
picks
got
favorites.
favoritism, right?
Yep.
Yep.
So these verses also introduce divine worship. This is the first time we're seeing sacrifices to God and
Mm,
the worship of God like this. So
mhm.
I think that's important to the Christian foundation and the foundation of God having this need to be worshipped. You
Right.
know,
And he's a
it's it's
jealous God, very
it's
jealous
very
God.
narcissistic in my time.
Exactly.
So the Lord God said to Cain, "Why are you angry?" Oh, let's see. Let's see. If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin is lurking at the door. Its desire is for you, but you must master it. I find this very important because this is the first time we mention sin, even though the previous chapter is all about the fall of man, the first sin. It was never mentioned in it. God
Right.
never mentioned sin before until chapter 4.
Mm.
And God warns Cain, but doesn't tell him what he could have done better. Do you notice that? Like he could have said, "Why didn't you trade some of your fruits and vegetables to your brother and have him offer a blood sacrifice?" Why does
Mm.
God need a blood
I,
sacrifice?
and he created these, beings that they're doing blood sacrifices. I just don't get it.
I
I
don't get
don't
it.
get
What
it.
is the need for this murderous God?
It's so
Like
warped. Just warped.
it is really disturbing to me that
It is.
he from the very beginning shows that he needs bloodshed, he needs
Hmm.
death, he needs worship. I
Yeah.
don't know. I just
It
can't.
doesn't make sense at all.
Okay, in 6:8, Cain said to his brother Abel, "Let us go out to the field." And when they were in the field, Cain rose up against his brother Abel and killed him. So basically, that's the first murder. And it shows what happens when your sin is unchecked. That is what you're supposed to learn from that as a Christian. If your sin goes unchecked, the wages of sin is death in one way or another. And this one, Cain kills his brother, and then there's going to be a death within Cain too, because he's going to be separated eventually from God here. So 9 through 12. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Where is your brother Abel?" See, there's the question again. An
Right.
all-knowing God. Where's your
Hmm.
brother?
Right.
I I can't find him. Where's your brother Abel? He said, "I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper?"
He's not able to find Abel.
And the Lord said, "What have you done? Listen, your brother's blood is crying out to me from the ground." Now let me see. And now you are cursed from the ground, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you till the ground, it will no longer yield to you its strength. You will be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth. Now, as a Christian, what I believed was that the blood literally did cry out to God because God knew about DNA long before we did. That's what I told myself. So in
Right.
that way, God was like, "See, I have his DNA. I know you killed him." You know,
Yep.
that was what my little Christian logical mind told myself to I don't know, to justify all of this
It's exactly
murderousness.
right. It's interpreting, and then it becomes like making things up,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, because you want to find some deep meaning in it.
Exactly. Exactly. I'd always was thinking, we're in a different time now. They had these beliefs, they had these rules, they did these things. And it's like trying to justify murder.
Yeah,
It's he murdered them, and then you know, then Cain's going to suffer, the rest of his life, and they don't know. Like God isn't telling them, murder's wrong, or he's playing games. He set up Adam and Eve to fail. I believe.
oh, I do
You
too.
know?
I do
Yeah,
too. I fully believe that 100%. I
playing
mean,
games.
he said that Jesus was, um, before the earth was created, Jesus was already going to be the sacrifice. So there had to be a setup for failure to begin with if you've already decided what you're going to do to sacrifice for the world. You know what I mean? So it was always his plan for this whole thing to be effed up, you know?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
But you know what I didn't understand was, why didn't God just use corporal punishment right here? You know,
Yeah.
you killed your brother, now you're going to die.
Exactly.
I don't understand why that wasn't the punishment for
No, he
this
tortured.
particular
He's going to
event.
torture him first. Yeah.
But
It's
instead,
crazy.
that's not what's going to happen with Cain.
Right.
Let's read 13 through 16. Cain said to the Lord, "My punishment is greater than I can bear. Today you have driven me away from the soil, and I shall be hidden from your face. I shall be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth, and anyone who meets me may kill me." Then the Lord said to him, "Not so. Whoever kills Cain," I should be saying unalive. I'm sorry, unalives Cain, "will suffer a sevenfold vengeance." And the Lord put a mark on Cain so that no one who came upon him would unalive him. Then Cain went away from the presence of the Lord and settled in the land of Nod, east of Eden. So I have a lot of problems with these verses here. Lots of problems with these.
Yes.
Who are the other people?
I don't know.
Where did they come from? You know, this has been
And they go
explained
around killing
away.
people. Like you have to put a mark on them because they're such savages.
Right, and how would they even know him? Like, why do you have to put a mark on him? Nobody
Right.
knows him.
I know.
I mean, like, if there's some other people who exist on this earth, they would
Right.
not know who he was. That
Right.
just seems
Or
ridiculous.
what he did. Exactly. It is. It's so ridiculous.
It really is. And
It's so fucked up.
so when I was a Christian, they tried to say that back in Genesis, when God created them, man and woman, or whatever, that he actually created humankind. But then why did God tell Eve to go out, be fruitful, multiply the whole earth, you know, be
Right.
like fill the whole earth, if he was already going to make other people? Like,
It's
this whole thing just sounds like an ancient story that somebody
exactly.
told around the
Exactly.
campfire, you know?
Yeah. A fairy
The
tale.
mark of Cain also has been used throughout history to propagate lies about, you know, and push racism and bigotry.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
some people believe that the mark of Cain meant that that he was dark skinned, like as if everybody wasn't in that region.
Right. Exactly. Oh my God. You're right. That's
So
so weird.
nobody knows what the mark of Cain was.
Right.
We just know that God put some kind of mark on him that made
That
these
nobody would kill
people
him.
who had never met him before. I'm gonna invite Dave up, see if he'll come join us.
Okay.
Well, if I can. Let me see who's in the guest box too. I don't know that person, so they're not coming up. Let's invite Dave. Oh, you're driving? Okay. All right. I just thought you might want to come up. Anyway,
Hi, Dave.
all right. So the next part is the beginning of civilization. In verse 17, it says, Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Enoch. And he built a city and named it Enoch after his son Enoch. To Enoch was born Irad, and Irad was the father of, and I'm sorry if I butcher these names. I'm not even going to pretend to know these names very well. Mehujael, and Mehujael, the father of Methushael, and Methushael, the father of Lamech. So now we see Cain's descendants enter the scene, and a city is built. But what I want to know is, where did he find his wife? Where did he, like, I still don't get where these other people came from. And I never have understood. Thank you so much for the gifts.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And nobody's ever like explained it in a way. Like I said, we just kind of, as Christians, were told, oh, God, created all humankind back then, but then it didn't explain again.
Right.
But okay, so Carr says the separation of the 12 tribes, but that hasn't been mentioned yet. That's not in the Bible yet. So
Right.
I'm only going by what we've read in the Bible thus far.
Exactly.
And this is all I can go by thus far.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 19 through 22. It says,
Thank you.
Lamech took 2 wives. The name of one was Adah, and the name of the other Zillah. Adah bore Jabal. He was the ancestor of those who live in tents and have livestock. His brother's name was Jubal. He was the ancestor of all those who play the lyre and pipe. Zillah bore Tubal Cain, who made all kinds of bronze and iron tools. The sister of Tubal Cain was Naamah. Now, I really should have gone in and looked up what each of these names mean, because the names meaning something usually brings some kind of,
Mm-hmm.
special in-depth, something to the story, but I didn't.
Right. But you're reading it as we, actually people should be reading it, and you don't interpret this like take it as it is, and it's fairy tales.
Right.
They're nonsensical. It's just everything is so distorted now. They take the pieces they want and they distort it, or they put in with, if you read it for what it is, it's just ridiculous. It doesn't make sense.
Carr says
Like
a
you
lot of
said,
things
it's
weren't
story.
mentioned. You got to look in different places. It
Mm-hmm.
isn't in accord with the timeline. Now,
Right.
if you're talking from a Christian perspective, that doesn't line up with the way I was taught, that this was a timeline and this was historical and this was the beginning of mankind. If
Right.
you're talking about from a non-believer standpoint, I agree with you 100%. There are many other books and so forth that I should look at. And if I look at what Brendan is saying, he says the lyre and pipe sounds like Greek mythology. That is true. It does sound like Greek mythology.
It does. Yep.
Well, you better join us for the Lot story, because we will be getting to it. But one of the things that I can point out in here is that Cain's descendants contributed to culture and technology. I'm sorry, did I go all the way down to yeah, I did. Okay. All those answers. Zillah bore Tubal Cain, who made all kinds of bronze and iron tools. The sister of Tubal was Naamah. Okay. Yeah, but the problem here is now we have another anachronism, because bronze and iron would not have been used yet.
Right.
This is not historically accurate. So again, this is when I have problems with the Bible. When they're bringing up things that didn't even exist yet, this would not be historically accurate to the time.
Right.
This would be much later.
It's crazy.
And you're not allowed to question those things when you're a
Exactly.
Christian.
You nailed it.
Yeah, you're not allowed to say, but, hey, wait a minute.
Don't question in religion. You don't.
Yeah.
Questions are absolutely, I was shut down always from questions. I would be like, you don't question this, and I mean, I constantly would be like, well, why this? Why that? And they absolutely, they shut you down. They say, you don't question. It's the word of God. And
right. Or they would just excuse it and try to say, well, words didn't mean what they mean now, or whatever.
Right.
Well, tell me, what did the word mean? What
Right.
exactly? Because according to my Hebrew translation, it freaking means bronze and iron. And according to the timeline that the Bible itself gives you, the Bible gives you a freaking timeline when you add up how long the earth took to be made, how old Adam was when he died, continue on down through the genealogy. It tells you exactly what year it was supposed to be, and bronze and iron were not yet available.
Yep.
Depends on what denomination. I am independent Christian, and it's completely normal to have doubt. Well, that's good for you, Car, because in most Christian denominations, it's not okay to have doubt, and it's not okay to ask questions. I
Right.
mean, to a point you can, but if you press on those questions, they're going to tell you to go pray and that you need to seek counseling and go talk to your pastor.
I was raised Catholic, all through Catholic school.
My
So
best
I
friend was
felt that.
Catholic, so I went to Catholic church all the time, but I was Methodist, and her mom hated that. Yeah.
Really was a
When I was
virgin.
little, I knew all their prayers because of growing up with them, so I would be at their house and sit and we would say their prayers. And, before they would pray at dinner or whatever, they would say, Hail Mary, full of grace, blessed art thou, and Hippie's here. Yay. I'm going to bring Hippie up.
Yeah.
And one time we were praying and I said, Hail Mary, full of grace, bless these freckles on my face. And all of us kids started laughing, but her mom was so mad.
That's
Hey,
great.
Hippie, how are
That's
you?
How are you feeling
hysterical.
now? You feeling
Hi,
better?
Hippie.
You feeling
We're
better,
almost
Crystal?
done with the chapter, but I'm going to want to go back over it with you to see what input you have, okay?
Oh, have we looked at the when it was written?
What?
Have we looked at when it was written?
No. Why don't you talk to us about that?
Right. So this 4 contradicts 5, which will come next. We're going to.
Okay.
So the next week should be quite interesting. But yeah, this was. I'll try and remember now. Sorry, I'm a little bit elevated. I
That's
wasn't.
okay.
I wasn't expecting to be in Bible study today, so I was just like cruising the world, living life.
All right.
I believe this is the later earlier source.
Okay.
But yeah, then when you look at the genealogy in this one, it's contradicted in the next chapter.
Okay, good. I'm glad you brought that because I really hate genealogy, and I knew that next week was genealogy. So the fact that you can give us some more insight into that will be so helpful next week because I'm not, it bores me. I used to just go blah, 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 blah when I went through it.
Yeah, it's awful. When we get to tear it to pieces and go, look, it contradicts itself. You know that bit where they say there's no contradictions in the Bible? Look
Yeah.
at the genealogies. If you want to find
We
all the
did talk
contradictions, they're there.
We did talk about how they bring up that there's bronze and iron, but at this time there would not have been.
Right.
So that's an anachronism right there. So we did discuss that a little bit. So where were we? Okay, so they contribute to, all right, 23 and 24. Verse 23 and 24. Lamech said to his wives, Adah and Zillah, hear my voice. You wives of Lamech, listen to what I say. I have killed a man for wounding me, a young man for striking me. If Cain is avenged sevenfold, truly Lamech 77-fold. So first I'd like to bring up that this is also our first mention of polygamy in the Bible. And it was pointed out as Christians, this shows that Cain's line is a murderous, sinful line. And it didn't end with Cain, it continued afterward. As if everything bad you ever do gets passed on down to your children. Like they will automatically do bad things if you've done bad things. And I hate it. I just hate that narrative.
I do too. That's horrible.
It gives children for me personally, I'll tell you, my father was in prison by the time I was 3. He was a P3DO, and so it made me feel like that was upon me.
Oh, that's horrible. That's awful.
That's what
I'm
this
sorry you
Bible
went
does.
through that. Yeah,
That's what
it
this Bible
really
does.
is polluting a child's brain with religion, like right away. They pollute. I look at it as polluting their brain. The individuality of people, with this shit. I'm sorry, oops. With,
No,
these
go ahead.
stories, it's so horrible. It really is,
It really is, because
and it's
I
so
just felt no
violent.
matter what I did, I would have that upon me. And it
Oh,
made me wonder, could I grow up to be as evil as him? And I
oh,
questioned it all the time.
oh, that's awful. Awful.
And we end out with 25. Adam knew his wife again. Now, this was always weird to me, too. And I'll explain why, because, like Hippie said, I think 5 is going to kind of change this or whatever. But Adam knew his wife again, and she bore a son and named him Seth, for she said, God has appointed for me another child instead of Abel, because Cain killed him. So to me, this sounded like she only ever had 3 kids, but she was supposed to have, be fruitful and multiply and fill the whole earth. Because suddenly
That's
she
an odd
finally
number.
has a kid to replace the one who was murdered.
Right.
But we're going to find out that he's not born till much later, and that supposedly they had other sons. Why weren't those other sons replacements for him?
Yeah.
It was all very weird to me.
It
To
is.
Seth also a son was born, and he was named and he named him Enosh. At that time, people began to invoke the name of the Lord. So this shows a new lineage of God worshippers. Cain is sinful and Seth is righteous. And that's what it shows us. Any input on chapter 4, Hippie?
No, I think the bits that interest me in this are like quite varied, really. But the bit at the end there, at that time, people began to invoke the name of the Lord. And there's a lot of recognition that it's putting the divide in easily about the Garden of Eden. That it's separate to the world, and that the world was already populated.
Yeah.
To me, very, very much paints the picture of, they came out of the garden and went into a populated world.
Yeah.
For me, that's how I see it. Anyway, it's very clear.
It was really weird to me about that part. I couldn't understand, like I was saying earlier, I don't understand where all those other people came from. Why did Cain even know there were other people that he had to worry about? Like, he knew ahead of time, because he was like, if you send me out there, they're gonna know what I did. Why would they know him? Why would they know what he did? Where did they come from? What I didn't understand any of that.
No. And they're very violent.
Yeah, and they're very violent.
They're very violent. They get killed easily. It's crazy.
They're pop-up people. Regina, you want to come up to join us?
Regina. I want Melanie to come up.
Where are you?
She introduced me to you.
I love Regina. She's awesome.
Yeah.
And I love her
Sorry.
input on stuff like that. Regina, request up so I can bring you up. Oh, you're just listening? All right. Hi, Kelly. Do you want to come up and join us? I'd love to hear some more input. If you guys have input and want to join us and tell us some of your thoughts on chapter 4, I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, I haven't read the Bible since the early or late 80s, so
I
I'm
learned
rusty.
from everybody else, you know what I mean? Like, it helps me understand it better.
That's right. Different opinions.
Did you know when you went through the bit where it said, the Lord said, "What have you done? Listen, your brother's blood is crying to me from the ground." What did you make of that?
When he asked, what have you done? Okay, I was telling Al that when I was a Christian, I thought, like, your brother's blood cries out to me was because God knew about the DNA.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Okay.
But that's how I told it in my head, like that's what I came up with. I don't really know what the real thing is.
Yeah, no, because that bit's always kind of a hell of an echo right there, isn't there? No, it's just a really weird bit where it says that his blood is crying to him from out of the ground.
Yeah.
Just seeing it's really weird language to
It is
use. It's
so
really weird
Mm-hmm.
way to put a sentence together. There's nothing rational about the way it's written.
No, there's not. Hippie, you got a bit of an echo. I don't know if you want to swipe out and swipe back in real quick. I like to think about the human traits the writers putting into their God. Jealousy is a big one. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Jealous God. Who's he jealous of?
Apparently everybody, right?
Absolutely.
He's so afraid you'll love anything or anyone more than him,
I know. It's so fucking paranoid, narcissistic. It's just crazy.
And at
Crazy
this,
shit.
we've discussed in the previous Bible studies.
Mm-hmm.
You know what, Ella? It might be you that has an echo. Can you mute
Oh
from it?
shoot! All right, I'll pop off.
Let me see. Okay, unmute Hippie and let me hear if you have an echo.
Yeah, I'm not muted now. Is that better?
Okay, you don't have an echo. Maybe it was
yay.
Elle. But Elle, you can come back if you want. It just sometimes you just have to swipe out and swipe back in, and then the echo goes away.
Yeah, I pressed all the wrong buttons and went completely off the app. Were you talking about why is God jealous? Why is God a jealous God, and why is he worried about other gods and stuff?
Yeah, why is he already so jealous?
Well, it's because he's got 69 brothers and sisters.
Right,
And,
that's what I was going to tell Elle, that you were teaching me about that. So why don't you explain that a little bit to Elle?
Oh, where's El gone? I think Yahweh might have said that. I think a lot of religious people might have said, "Where is El gone?" Actually, back in the day, that's quite fitting.
Hi, no means no. Yes, I'm feeling a lot better thanks to modern medicine and the Z Pack.
What's a Z Pack?
A Z Pack is it's a pack of like 6 pills you take that have antibiotics in case you are going through a bacterial infection. But you have to like wait and see if it's bacterial or viral, And so I had to wait a little while to see if it ran its course before I could take it.
Nice. All right.
Yay, science, right? Yay, science. Well, go ahead and explain to everybody about why God is jealous who wasn't with us in the previous Bible studies.
Oh, Yahweh, who everyone now calls, right? Every god has a name. Calling gods God is awful, and it stunts conversation. So Yahweh was a minor deity. He was a small bit player in the Canaanite pantheon. It was a pantheon of many gods, and the supreme leader or ultimate creator in this one was El. And Elyon, and his wife or consort Asherah had 70 children, which they divided the lands between, and that's seen in Deuteronomy 32:8, 32, somewhere 8 and 9, I think it is. And then yeah, oh god, sorry, my mind's gone blank.
And so because of the
brain fart moment,
he wasn't the only god, and that's why he
no, yeah. I mean, he took over. Like a lot of people go on about Yahweh being a storm deity. He wasn't a storm deity until he kind of took over from Baal.
Hippie, before you continue, they want to know: are you a Christian?
Oh, really? No.
Do you have
really, no.
Are you a pagan or are you atheist? What are you?
Oh god, I think at the moment I'm agnostic, not agnostic, which means that we need, if we're gonna, the idea of discussing the God is so ridiculous that we need to define God, what a God is, before we can talk about it. But yeah, no, I definitely do not believe in the Abrahamic God. I've got a fascination with Bronze Age mythology from the Near East, and it's yeah, I find the whole subject really interesting. So yeah, but no, but I was raised in a cult commune. It's basically a Christian cult-based thing. It was horrific, and they forced me to read the Bible, which was their biggest mistake. So I
Yes.
did. And if you actually read the Bible rather than just the cherry-picked bits, you kind of start seeing through things. And yeah, I like listening to what the scholars and the people who can read the original text or the oldest text. I like listening to what they have to say and seeing how it all comes together. And I like looking at what was politically happening in the areas around the time that the books were written. I find it fascinating, not because I believe in any of it, but because this book has been used to destroy our planet, our humanity, the people of the world. We suffer because of this nonsense, and
Absolutely.
it's in every flavour. There's so many flavours of it. It's ridiculous, but yeah, the justification and the manipulation that's come about through this book is horrific.
I agree 100%. This book has been used to massacre people, to enslave people, and it has been used to put laws into place that discriminate, that I just can't even like this book is just it needs to be deconstructed. People really need to look at it. Um, and that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing every week. We're going chapter by chapter so that we can really look into it and see what it really says, where the history of it's from, what anachronisms are in it, inaccuracies, contradictions, whatever we can find, so we can really understand it.
Yeah, no,
Well, thank you, Regina.
and it is important to. I mean, it's scary that it is important to understand and read this book, because of its effect on the world. This
Yeah,
book has
absolutely.
damaged the world. It's awful that we have to do this, but in doing this, we're doing something that most Christians haven't done.
Exactly. Exactly.
You
As
know,
a Christian, we've talked about this before. I read through the Bible many times. I used to teach Bible study, but when I did have these questions about things, I was, you know, at, apologetics were thrown at me, and things were explained away so that it would appease me for the time. Um, there were a few things that never appeased me. We'll go over those as we reach them, but obviously the LGBTQIA issue never appeased me. So I was pretty much a heathen when it came to that. I am straight, but there was nothing in me that could hate somebody who was LGBTQIA. So I told my children we kind of ignore that. So, that was the thing I cherry picked. I was like, no, we're not going by that. Okay. So, hey, Justin, thanks for joining us. Good to see you. So, Hippie, you were continuing to talk about the Pantheon, why God was a jealous God already, and I interrupted you.
yeah. Well, basically, when Deuteronomy 32, 8 and 9, in 8, it says that Elyon gives the inheritance of the sum of Jacob, the land of Israel, the people of Israel, that is Israel now, to Yahweh. They're his people. And so when he speaks to them, he's not saying there are no other gods. He's saying for you, there are no other gods, to those specific people. It's very pointed, it's very direct. It's, I am the only one for you. He's not denying the existence of other gods. He'd have a hard time doing that in divine council. But what he's saying is for those people, and the way this has been twisted, it's like a dogma. People are like saying, no, there is no other God. But that's not
Right.
what he said. That's not what is actually in the writing.
And so back in the earlier chapters, we see where God says, let us make them in our image. And people have tried to turn that into the Trinity. Other people have tried to say, that's about angels, but that's not who he's talking to, is it?
No, that's the divine council. That's the gods, his brothers and sisters. So El and his wife Asherah had 70 children. The land was divided between the 70 deities. And the pantheon was massive. And when you look at it, there's different levels and different layers of where the deities were. Some of them were like Yahweh started off as a metallurgy deity. So, when you're doing your blacksmithing, it would be the deity of the blacksmith work that you were doing. So they didn't see gods the same way that we see gods. They saw the magic in everything. They saw the magic in life, and they put it down to being different deities. Everything that happened was magic. Fire. Let's face it, fire in itself was probably magic.
Right.
It's I don't know. Yeah, no, their view of deities was very, very different to what we've got now. The version we've got now is, with the deity being out in the clouds and blah blah blah. The image of the bearded old deity is actually El.
Oh, okay.
Yahweh would have been, when he was a storm deity, as he was taking over Baal, he would have been a much younger, stronger deity. When he was, he's been all of the deities. He's been all of the images. They basically took the names of all of the old gods, crossed out their names, and written Yahweh above it.
So
What we
did
read is a
deities?
story of many gods. This is why his mood changes. This is why he's inconsistent. It's because it's loads of different deities with their names crossed out and Yahweh put in there.
Ah, okay. So did deities walk among men, or were they always like sky people? Like, what were they
Well,
like?
when we look in Genesis, God comes down and he walks through the trees with them. He's
Yeah.
very human in his appearance. What's her name? Francesca
Yes. We've talked about her.
Yeah,
And
yeah, we've messed about her. Yeah, she's got a book that talks all about how God's image, how God looks. You can pick that, and that's picked out of the Bible.
okay.
It's this whole idea of you can't even look at God without unaliving yourself is quite late. Earlier in the early text, people walked with him. They saw God. They interacted with him.
And people like
So
to, in Christianity, explain that away by changing that to be no, they were looking at the Spirit of God. That's the Holy Spirit. But that's not what the book says. It will say that they walked with God. And there are other times where it'll say the Spirit of God. And so I just think that sometimes we're just disingenuous with what we're saying to ourselves about what's happening.
I think there was editing.
Yeah.
I think that would be, but well, we know there was editing, but the editing process has been going on since the book. The book is fluid. It's like the book is alive. It's I don't think it's more static now than it's ever been. It's always been in a state of change, and like we're in Genesis. We're up to Genesis 4. We know that we're looking at stories from King Josiah's time, and stories from the time of the exile, with older stories put in there. There's priestly source, the Jahweh source, all mixed together, and we're only on chapter 4.
I know. It's crazy.
This is fluid. We don't know exactly where everything comes from. We don't know where the influences were. we don't have those texts. We don't have that data available for us to look at and say, oh, that's where they took this, that's where they took that. So, but yeah, it's very localized. I mean, at the time, you got, as much as people see this as, oh, this was the creator of the world. No, at the time, this was the creator of the world for that region.
Right.
There were older creators who'd been around before of other regions. This is a very local, very small group of people trying to form a religion, trying to write a backstory to justify their existence, and they borrowed and blagged and robbed from everyone around them.
Yes.
So, we're going to come up to the flood, and that comes out of the Epics of Gilgamesh, which is way older than Genesis.
Regina says that a lot of times people say that they saw his backside and that they didn't actually see him. But she points out something really important. People who say that you can't, you couldn't stand the glory of God if you saw him with your eyes, like it would be just too much or whatever. Didn't Adam and Eve see him?
Yeah, they proper hung out, didn't they? We were looking at that a couple of weeks ago. They were proper hanging out.
Yeah. So I don't know how people can say that, that you can't see him. Yeah, getting through Genesis is difficult, Mel, for sure. It is very flawed, and we're only on chapter 4. Like, there's so much more to go through, and right now it's been very problematic.
Looking to read this with having faith and having belief and wanting to hold it all together, you've almost got to close your eyes to be able to get through the pages.
Absolutely. I really still don't even understand myself how I believed in this. Like, I really don't know how I believed it and perpetuated the myth with my own children. Like, I'm a much smarter person than that. I like to give myself a little credit, and I don't know. I know I was indoctrinated. I know, but I always questioned authority, even as a child. What part of me didn't just go, wait, why is there a talking serpent and why isn't she freaked out by that? Or,
yeah, but the thing is, you've got to think, as a small child, you are vulnerable and impressionable, and you were told that this thing existed. You were told that this thing, you were lied to, whether intentionally or not, right? But you were told that this thing existed, and that if you didn't follow these rules, there was going to be your mind you've not got enough life experience to understand what's going on in the world, and you're being told that your forever lasting life after, you can't even comprehend it as an adult, is in jeopardy from your behavior. It is gnarly. To teach this to children is abuse.
It really is. And I did teach my children it, and I'm, my children are all out of it now. Thank science. I did teach my children since they were little to always question authority, actually, because I found that people who didn't question authority were often victimized by authority. And I told them that they were even allowed to question me and dad. And so one of the first things that happened on my road to deconstructing was that my son came and told me that he was atheist. And I just threw him out of the house. No, I'm just kidding. I did not do that. I did not do that. I loved him so much that it made me question my beliefs instead of telling him he was wrong and going to hell. I did say some horrible things, don't get me wrong, but not like, I said more like, it was so narcissistic, the things I said to him. Not, it was more like, oh, thank you. So what do you think about me? Like, you must think I'm crazy, because I did care what my son thought about me. And I thought, oh my God, you think I talk to myself? Like, these things dawned on me, like, holy shit, you think I talk to myself? oh my God, like you think I'm crazy. And he was like, Mom, I don't think you're crazy. And I couldn't understand how he could not think I was crazy. That one, I was like, you have to think I'm crazy. Which now that I'm out of it, I realized he realized at the time that I was indoctrinated as I indoctrinated him, you know? I'm glad your daughter helped you, Regina. If you really love your kids as they grow older, you will be willing to learn from them. If you can't learn from your own kids, I don't know what you're doing. I learned so much from my own children. They are absolutely my best friends. I just adore all three of my children. They're three completely independent, different people, and they're amazing to me. Yeah, goofed up. I am glad I broke free, and I'm glad that any of you that are deconstructing broke free as well. Melanie is asking you a question in chat, Hippie.
Yeah, no, I was kind of, when you said question everything, and I said why, which was kind of questioning everything. It was meant with humor.
Hi, Regina.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Not feeling the best, but I'm here.
Are you sick?
Yeah, I think I caught the freaking norovirus.
No, I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's okay. What are you gonna do?
I've been sick for a week and I'm so sorry because it just sucks, you know?
That's
Got
it.
things to do. I don't have time to be sick.
I feel that. So yeah, my daughter helped me a lot. I think what really got her is my uncle was a pastor, and she had come to me and asked me about baptism. And I said, well, I'm probably not the best person to ask. I mean, yes, I've been baptized and everything, but I was baptized at a time when I really didn't understand it. It was just pretty much, you need to do this, in the church.
What denomination were you, Regina?
Baptists.
You were Baptist. Okay.
Baptists, yeah.
So you
So,
had the full immersion baptism, right?
full immersion, all that junk.
I was Methodist, so I got that little sprinkle on your head when you were a child.
Exactly. And right after that is when all that stuff happened to me. But I just told her that, I wasn't the best person to ask and to talk to, my uncle. And they were on the phone for a couple of hours, and she had this big notebook of questions and things. And she said, Mom, have you gone through all this? And I was like, well, I just know what I know and what I've been taught in church and what I've taught you and your brother. She said, there are so many questions. You need to read this, and I'm not going to get baptized. I do not believe in this at all. This is crazy. And I said,
Wow.
okay, well, I support you 100%. I'd rather you not. If you don't understand it, you have questions still, this and that, don't do it. And then she said, well, can we sit down and go through this stuff together? Well, sure. Not a problem. And we both just were like, oh my, this makes no sense. There's so many contradictions.
Yeah.
And she would even go, I think the main reason that they went was for youth group. I think a lot of people just went for youth group. And she would ask questions to the pastor there, and he would just say, you not, just like you all said earlier, you're not supposed to question these things. You're just supposed to listen and take it in.
Just have faith.
Well, what do you mean? Why am I not allowed to ask questions? Why? Because you don't.
Because no one can answer the questions.
That's true. No one can answer the question.
Yep.
It just brings on more questions when they try to explain it. It's like you're making no sense.
It always brought on more questions for me than it did answers. I I never understood all the times where God showed favoritism.
Mm-hmm.
That really hurt me deeply. And as a grown up, I know why, because my parents showed favoritism and I didn't understand my own parents showing favoritism. And so I didn't understand a God who would do that. I personally, as a parent, could not show favoritism. I just couldn't. I just was like, I don't understand how you could.
And I don't understand how other family members can pick, like, their favorites out of your children.
Yeah.
Like, what?
It's so weird.
And you say you're a Christian? That's BS.
I really don't. I never understood it, and it hurt me deeply as a child to see God do that over and over and over again in the Bible. I could not comprehend why he loved Abel's gift, but he didn't love Cain's gift. It just hurt me so much. It just made me feel like I might bring something to God, and he might not find it worthy, just
Right.
because. But that's all I had. That's all I had to give. That was my gift.
Yeah, but God doesn't like vegan food. He like only eats meat, and he loves the smell of meat because of all the when all the sacrifice. No, this is the thing. When all the sacrifices are going on, he loves the smell. You know, it's implied that he doesn't necessarily eat, but he enjoys the odor. So vegetables, you know, they just smell like really gnarly, kind of horrible smell when you burn vegetables, but when you burn an animal, it has that distinct meat odor, and that's what God liked.
You know, you're not wrong. He does talk about the sweet fragrance, doesn't he?
100% all the time. Yeah, he loves it. He loves the smell of sacrifice.
That's weird.
That is weird.
Although I personally do love the smell of steak cooking, but if you grill me up some artichokes, I'm going to equally enjoy that. Jason, the U is different. What does the U mean on the LGBTQIA? What? I don't know what the question is. I don't understand. I'm sorry, Jason. Thank you for the gifts. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody, and for sharing the live. Regina, Hippie, do you have any more thoughts or questions or anything else you wanted to share with us this morning?
I actually had loads, but I then got elevated and didn't realize it was going to be this evening. So I've got no memory of any of the notes that I made. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay. That's okay. If I told everybody it was kind of an off week for us because we're usually live Wednesday mornings, and it threw everybody off that I wasn't available this week, being sick and stuff. So we'll get back on track next Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. It says you have it written when a guest comes in. I'm not sure, Jason. I'll have to look at that. Hi, Hanji. Thanks for joining us.
Maybe it was just an extra letter that got thrown in.
Oh, okay. I'll have to look at that and fix that. I don't know why it got thrown in. Just a typo. Just a typo.
So going back to Adam and Eve, though, why didn't he keep his word when he said, if you eat from that tree, you will surely die? Why didn't he just take care of them then?
Because then the whole story would have ended. There would be no season 2, Regina.
There would be no more fairy tales.
That's
Shoot.
true.
That just made no sense to me. I'm like, well,
It would have been like a 3-page book, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
yeah, it would
Bible study would have been really short.
be like 4 little pages.
And not only did they not die just then, we talked about this in prior weeks. Eve's death is never ever mentioned in the Bible, so for all we know, she could just be still wandering around somewhere alive.
She shows up later
No,
on
she doesn't-
and has
she's
another
only
child.
property. You
with-
women are just property of men. When are you going to accept your position? You don't
Oh,
count. Your lifespan doesn't matter for nothing. No, it's all about the men. When that penis goes limp, that's when it's over.
oh, okay. And Adam lives a very long life for somebody who was gonna die that day. You know, he lives a
Yeah,
really long life.
didn't he?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
also
well,
pointed out,
considering
Regina.
he was meant to unalive on the day that he ate of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and he went on to have several children and get to 900 and something.
Yep,
He had a good innings.
he had a really good run, if you ask me. Regina, if you notice also, the first sin, although they never called a sin, is that she ate, right?
Right.
She ate. And then if you notice what Adam's punishment is, people like to say his punishment is to toil the ground, but if you read it, it says your punishment is to toil the ground and eat the fruit of it. So she gets punished for eating, and his punishment is to eat. How fair is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, but punished not by eating meat, by eating vegetables.
Yeah.
Obviously, God has a big hate for women.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Well, I think we can say King Josiah had a big hate for women when, around the time that he was writing, this story was being written for his new religion that he was manufacturing.
You know, and here my husband is one of those that, you've heard me talk about him. He just wants me to submit to all that junk. I'm like, you better get out of here, because that's not going to happen. That is not going to happen.
My husband was just a theist, I would call him, when I met him. And I was this devout Christian, and I made him be this devout Christian man. He never was one that believed that men ruled over women. We didn't really fall into that I should be submissive to him type of thing, but he married me, so that was never going to happen anyway. I'm not a very submissive person, so wasn't going to happen anyway. But when I did stop believing, he was like, "What are you talking about? You're the one who made me do this."
Well,
So he was a little confused by the whole thing. He's like, I don't understand. But the thing is, it just proved how much he loved me, because he stayed with me the whole time. Oh, what?
Mate, I said it to you last time we were on here. I want to meet this guy and shake his hand. I have got so much respect for your husband.
absolutely, yeah.
He's a good guy. He is still a theist. He doesn't believe in the Abrahamic God. Especially the more he hears me diving into it, the more he's like, "What on earth did you ever drag me into?" But he does believe that there is some kind of God out there that may have created everything. Hi, Jason. How are you this morning?
Oh, good. I was thinking about something for, how do you pronounce his name? Solvino?
Solovino?
Oh, that's just it, right? A lot of people are always saying things like, I think even to him, and I think a lot of believers are not very well studied, for one. But they always saying that, like, he was never a believer. And I was thinking that can't be true, because a lot of people are probably believers, and I think Jesus gives a parable of that illustration. I don't know if you remember, there's a parable of it where they started out as like believers, but then a lot of the struggles in life came in. It's like having a garden outside, and then you kind of stop working in the garden, and all the weeds come in and kind of fall away, because you kind of just stop working. And it's a constant battle. That human nature is hard to be able to take care of it. And I think there was a time with Silvino and I forget, is it Mark? The one that has the joyful apostate. I think that's his name, Mark, right?
No, his name's Anthony or Tony.
Okay, Tony, that's right. I think one of those. Tony and Silvino. I think a lot of them did have truth, but then just a lot of struggles in life crept in, and the seed was not, what's the word? It was not. It was just thrown on the ground, but it wasn't really buried in the ground properly as it should be and nurtured and taken care of. Maybe I can't say for sure because I don't know them personally.
Okay, so wait, I just want to. So you think like that they had the seed planted in them, and then it just didn't take root, and that's why they're not Christians still today?
I don't know. Maybe I don't know them personally, but I was thinking about that illustration today, and I was thinking about having experience in landscaping now too, and I think even a lot of married couples, when they get married to each other, they're in love in the beginning and it all works out, but then they don't continue in what they need to do. They usually let the hardships of life get involved, take over their marriage, and they fight each other instead of fighting their problems.
Well, I
said that right.
can speak a little bit for Solo, and I can speak a little bit from Tony because I do know both of them. Solo was a preacher's kid, and I can assure you that every live he does, he is really seeking answers to his questions. And if he were to ever be given something, anything at all that showed him proof, he would believe, but he just doesn't have it. And it's not that he didn't nurture it, and it's not that he didn't, continue to seek, because he did his whole life. But the more he sought, the more he realized that this is just a book that is full of fairy tales, inaccuracies, and contradictions. And as for Joyful, and I go live twice a week. He debates Christians, and he was an associate pastor, and absolutely he was a Calvinist, and so he was. Yeah, he was Reformed Baptist. Again, the more he looked into the word, the more he realized this does not add up. It does not add up. And you cannot find a God that is all-knowing, all-powerful, and all-loving in the Bible. Those three things do not add up. But again, this is not a debate forum, so we're not in a debate here. But those are the things I know about Solovino and Joyful, and I just wanted to share. But definitely join their lives. Definitely request to come up because they love talking to people. They're both awesome guys.
Yeah, that's cool.
Well, do you have any final thoughts on today's topic?
Oh, I'm just. I'm sorry.
Every time somebody goes live, the volume drops down.
Oh, okay. Why don't you mute for a minute, Jason, and let me talk to Elle.
Hi. I'm sorry. I had to jump off. My boyfriend got my car inspected, so he was out front.
That's all right.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so thrilled to find you. I'm so happy Melanie hooked me up with you. You're wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
You really are, and it's so interesting. I actually have to go, and I probably have that feedback going on. So.
Oh no, you sound good right now. But thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
And really I hope we see you Wednesday. We'll be on chapter 5. Okay.
Absolutely, I'll be here. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Hon.
Regina, did you have anything else you wanted to share with us today?
No, sweetheart. It's just in there.
Well, I hope you feel better. I love you so much, Regina. You are always like just this bright spot to my day when I see you in other lives and stuff. I love seeing you there. And I love when you join the panel or go up and talk to Justin. I always learn something new.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Hippie, do you have anything else for us today?
No, I would like to make a statement, though, that the further I got away from the Christian world, the more love I found there to be in it.
Yeah, absolutely. I did too. I really, I do hear Christians say one thing that always drives me a little crazy. They'll say, if you're an atheist, you're supposed to be so accepting. Well, first of all, let's clarify that atheists do not have a worldview. So you can be atheist and be the most unaccepting human being on the planet. Do I find that most atheists are very accepting? Yes. Or agnostics, pagans, witches, all of those people are usually really accepting, and that's why we all hang out together. But I did find more love and acceptance the further I got away from what I was indoctrinated into.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing.
It is.
I agree with that 100%. And you're not judged as much within the community and everything. I mean, you're still judged by the Christians and crap, but
Yeah, and family.
of course, family. Yeah, I'm struggling with that right now. I've lost a few family members over this, and you know what? That's
Yep.
because I don't want to deal with that.
And we have an awesome community right here.
We do have an awesome community.
Jason, did you have anything else you wanted to say before we go?
No, that's it.
Well, thank
I
you
think
all
it's
for
actually just
joining us.
I think it's actually very sad that it's that way in the Christian world, in Christian America.
Yeah, I do too. I find it very sad. I didn't realize till I stepped away from it just how we appeared. And I do, just so you know, I see myself in the Christians who are in chat, who argue, who debate, who condemn. I remember being that person, and I'm really grateful I'm just not that person anymore.
A lot of people don't know how to judge properly. They judge too quickly.
I just think that we just shouldn't judge, you know? Walk a mile
They
in my
don't-
shoes.
Oh, I say judge, they don't evaluate all of the evidence first before speaking. They usually just speak first and then don't even examine things first. And they
Yeah,
need to learn how to judge with a righteous judgment instead of just open their mouth. A lot of people will just get angry and fly off the handle, but Scripture says not to do that. Psalm 4, be angry and do not sin. Ponder in your heart, think about it thoroughly first, and then work it out. So you don't just fly off the handle and then cause more damage later on down the road.
Yep, I think that a lot of people give in to their anger, whether they're Christian or not. And I think that if we all took a little bit of time to realize that the people that are in these chat rooms, the people who are on the other side of these screens, are actual human beings with freaking feelings. They're going through things that you could not possibly imagine. And if you could just show 1 ounce of compassion, then, you might actually change somebody's life for the good. You never saw me live yet, Zeke? Yes, I do mod a lot. But I hope you'll join us again on Wednesday, 11 a.m. Pacific time. We'll be on Genesis chapter 5. Thank you all so much for joining me today. Thank you for the gifts. Thank you for the subscriptions. I hope to see you all soon. If you missed the rest of this live and you want to hear what we were talking about today, I will be posting this later today on YouTube. So check out the link in my bio and you can watch the previous chapters there as well. Thank you so much. Love you guys. Bye.
Big love, respect, man.